We are going to be diving into lesson 68 of A Course in Miracles, and we are going to start with just a review of some of the preceding ones. Lesson 40, I am blessed as a son of God. Lesson 41, God goes with me wherever I go. Lesson 42, oops, I just split my screen. I've never done that before. Oh my. I didn't know you could do this. Actually, I wonder if I share my screen, can you guys read along with me? No, you can't. All right, well, it was worth a try. I just wanted to get you guys to be able to see what I'm seeing. All right. Lesson 42, God is my strength. Vision is his gift. Lesson 43, God is my source. I cannot see apart from him. Lesson 44, God is the light in which I see. Lesson 45, God is the mind with which I think. Lesson 46, God is the love in which I forgive. Lesson 47, God is the strength in which I trust. Lesson 48, there is nothing to fear. Lesson 49, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Lesson 50, I am sustained by the love of God. Lesson 61, I am the light of the world. Lesson 62, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. Lesson 63, the light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. Lesson 64, let me not forget my function. Lesson 65, my only function is the one God gave me. Lesson 66, my happiness and my function are one. Lesson 67, love created me like itself. And lesson 68, love holds no grievances. You who were created by love like itself can hold no grievances and know yourself. To hold a grievance is to forget who you are. To hold a grievance is to see yourself as a body. To hold a grievance is to let the ego rule your mind and to condemn the body to death. Perhaps you do not yet fully realize what holding grievances does to your mind. It seems to split you off from your source and make you unlike him. It makes you believe that he is like what you think you have become, for no one can conceive of his creator as unlike himself. Whoa. Shut off from yourself, which remains aware of its likeness to its creator. Yourself seems to sleep, while the part of your mind that weaves illusions in its sleep appears to be awake. Can all this arise from holding grievances? Oh, yes. For he who holds grievances denies he was created by love, and his creator has become fearful to him in his dream of hate. Who can dream of hatred and not fear God? Wow. It is as sure that those who hold grievances will redefine God in their own image as it is certain that God created them like himself and defined them as part of him. It is as sure that those who hold grievances will suffer guilt as it is certain that those who forgive will find peace. It is as sure that those who hold grievances will forget who they are as it is certain that those who forgive will remember. Would you not be willing to relinquish your grievances if you believed all this were so? Perhaps you do not think you can let your grievances go. That, however, is simply a matter of motivation. Today we will try to find out how you would feel without them. If you succeed, even by ever so little, there will never be a problem in motivation ever again. Begin today's extended practice period by searching your mind for those against whom you hold what you regard as major grievances. Some of these will be quite easy to find. Then think of the seemingly minor grievances you hold against those you like, even those you love. It will quickly become apparent that there is no one against whom you do not cherish grievances of some sort. This has left you alone in the universe in your own perception of yourself. Determine now to see all these people as friends. Say to them all, thinking of each one as you do, I would see you as my friend, that I may remember you as part of me and come to know myself. Spend the remainder of the practice period trying to think of yourself as completely at peace with everyone and everything, safe in a world that protects you and loves you, and that you love in return. Try to feel safety surrounding you, hovering over you and holding you up. Try to believe, however briefly, that nothing can harm you in any way. At the end of the practice period, tell yourself, love holds no grievances. When I let all my grievances go, I will know I am perfectly safe. The practice periods will should include a short application of today's idea in this form, whatever any thought of grievances arise against anyone, physically present or not. Love holds no grievances. Let me not betray myself. In addition, repeat the idea several times an hour in this form. Love holds no grievances. I would wake to myself by laying all my grievances aside and wakening in him. Wow, y'all. I have to read the first two paragraphs again. This is so powerful. Paragraph 1. The lesson for today is love holds no grievances. Paragraph 1 says, you who were created by love like itself can hold no grievances and know yourself. To hold a grievance is to forget who you are. To hold a grievance is to see yourself as a body. To hold a grievance is to let the ego rule your mind and to condemn the body to death. Perhaps you do not yet fully realize just what holding grievances does to your mind. It seems to split you off from your source and make you unlike him. It makes you believe that he is like what you think you have become. For no one can conceive of his creator as unlike himself. Shut off from yourself, which remains aware of its likeness to its creator. Yourself seems to sleep, while the part of your mind that weaves illusions in its sleep appears to be awake. Can all this arise from holding grievances? Oh, yes. For he who holds grievances denies he was created by love, and his creator has become fearful to him in his dream of hate. Who can dream of hatred and not fear God? Man, y'all, this is so powerful. The last thing I want to read. It is as sure that those who hold grievances will redefine God in their own image as it is certain that God created them like himself and defined them as part of his. Y'all, this is massive. If we really believe we were created in the image of God, then we have to believe that we were created like love. And we were created by love and we were created for love. And last night on the Knowing Show, we were talking about unconditional love. And it does not mean that it's love without boundaries. Jesus actually is the perfect example of this. Just the story and allegory of Jesus and the life he lived is so profound. There's a verse that says he did not entrust himself to certain people because he knew their hearts. Loving unconditionally and loving actually like God does not mean we're fully exposed, we're vulnerable to everybody. No, in fact, it means that we're wise, and it means that we have the wisdom to be able to see other people's motivations and intents. We can effectively know their heart because we're viewing with the eyes of God. We love with the eyes of God, but we also get the wisdom of God. And that wisdom of God, it's not just like God's like, oh, go love like me and be exposed, but he's also guarding us with his wisdom. So with this whole conversation of not seeing through the eyes of grievances, it's not doing away with any kind of justice. It's entrusting that and entrusting that the grievances that we hold will be handled by a loving God who loves us. So he wants justice executed, but he also loves them. So it's like a good parent. This is why I love the example of God as a father. And, we get to heal the wounds of our own past if we have not grown up with a good father by the example that God sets for us. So really coming to know God as a father is such a good example of, okay, well, how is he going to handle when one kid is unkind to another kid? You don't just let it be okay because you love both kids. No, actually discipline is so helpful in training. And this is how the world works. If I don't do good at my job, I get fired. And we could probably use a lot more discipline in our society these days because everything is pretty cushy and people are expecting that things are going to be handed to them rather than, no, this is the way that hierarchy works. If you don't do well, you're not going to get the outcomes that you want. I think that they took away F's from school, but that's besides the point. The point is that when we are willing to entrust these grievances to God and don the lens that he holds, the lens of love, y'all, that brings freedom for us and in us, because now, man, if we're holding on to grievances, if we're holding on to that hatred, we are creating God in our own image. Because like it says, there's no way that we can dream of hatred and not see our creator as something to be feared. Because if we could hold that kind of hatred, then if we were created like God, then he must hold that kind of hatred for us. But that's not at all the truth. And so this is the importance of taking the grievance, examining it, and letting it go. Again, it does not mean that there's not ramifications of the wrongs that people have done. But man, if I am holding on to those grievances, it's like holding somebody by their shirt collar, and now I'm not free and they're not free. But especially me, some people don't even know that we're holding them to this standard, or we're holding them at all, because we're upset. And so, y'all, this conversation, I think the main reason why it matters, love does not hold grievances, is because of our relationship with God. And then secondly, because of our relationship with ourselves. It has very little to do with other people, this conversation of forgiveness. It has everything to do with our relationship with God and our relationship with ourselves, actually being free to not be held by what other people have done and limited to their actions. But now we're free to dream, we're free to move on. And ultimately, we're free to exist in love. And I've got to tell you, peace comes from existing in that place. Peace comes from existing in the love of God, in the fold of love, and then exhibiting that to a world that is hungry and craving love. Rather than holding on tightly to this grievance, we actually kind of get smaller. It's like our power drains from us. The power that would come from embodying the love and presence of God, man, the very one that everybody needs. There's power in that. There's power in going up and hooking up to our source, rather than kind of sitting and stewing and allowing ourselves to be corroded. That's what hate does. That's what grievances do. They kind of corrode us from the inside out. And when we start being corroded, it's like we drop down layer by layer. And you can see it. David Hawkins has this brilliant example of assigning numerical value to emotion. And so he talks about pride is like 175, and then shame is 20, peace is 600. There's a heightening and a leveling up when we let grievances go. We are free, and thus we can experience peace and joy and love and these higher emotions that really, man, it feels good, versus it's keeping me small. It's keeping me stuck. It's keeping me lower. So it is not for the sake of somebody else that we release someone from our grievances. It is for the sake of God, to remember what is true about who he is, lest we make God like us, and it's also for our own sake. Because, and I actually want to go back to what she said here. I think I actually closed it out. Y'all, this was huge. She said, I do not want to betray myself. And so I'm curious if she's going to go into this more tomorrow, but that was huge. It's not just for the sake of God, but it's for our own sake. It's for the sake of our identity. It's for the sake of remembering who we were created to be in the first place. When we think of identity, part A is, who did God make me to be? Who did God make all of us to be? How do we get to live? And the fact I am worthy and loved regardless of what I do. So that's identity A. Identity B is, okay, well, how did he make my personality? What are the unique character traits? How does my past actually shape and inform who I am? And what is this unique story and this unique person that God made me to be? So identity A, Christ in us, God in us, is across the board. This is what everyone has access to. Everybody has access to being loved and cherished and worthy, because that's who God says that they are. And we're all connected through that. And truly, like it says, we're brothers and sisters. And then identity B is, okay, who am I uniquely made to be? And then when you combine those together, that's what amalgamates you and me. And so in this concept of we betray ourselves, we actually are forgetting identity A when we're holding on to grievances. When we're allowing hatred to replace love, we're cutting off access to God. We're cutting off access to the person that he created us to be. We're cutting off access from that core part of us. And by proxy, that cuts off access to ourselves because we're forgetting who we are, but it also cuts off access to everybody around us. It's not just that person that we're holding a grievance against. Once we allow for one point of separation from that person, now because we're denying that part of us who God made us to be, which is love and in love, now we're cutting ourselves off and living in isolation from that core part of identity that connects us to everybody. So now we're actually experiencing separation from our neighbors, from our families, from our kids, from our spouses. And so this recovery, letting go of grievances, has so much more at stake than this little tiny moment. And y'all, I needed to hear this morning. You know, I think that all of us do. One of the things that she encourages us to do is to meditate on this. You know, love holds no grievances, and to go through, like, take 10 minutes, go through everybody close to us. And she said, you're going to find that you actually hold a lot of small grievances. And the goal is to be clean from that. It really is a shedding. It's like a shedding of layers. It's a shedding of weight. You know, letting go is actually unburdening and casting our burdens off and trusting them to a good and loving Father who will hopefully bring about justice. And again, that does not mean we don't hold boundaries. That does not mean that we don't take action as a result of what other people have done. But what it is that internally, we are no longer holding out on them and holding on to what they have done. Our external actions is very different than internal. So internally, if I'm corroded and corrupted as a result of what they did, that's far more damaging than me having an external behavior change. Maybe I'm going to change my number. Maybe I'm going to block you. Maybe I'm going to actually have a hard conversation with you. Maybe I'm going to go to therapy with you. All of those boundaries should and can be exhibited in relation to what happened. And also, before we establish boundaries with somebody else, let's look in the mirror. What does my reaction about what happened have to say about me? Y'all, I got pretty hurt a couple of days ago. And it reveals to me I have a wound still that I need to go heal. So yes, I was hurt in the present from that person, but I already had that wound to begin with. So how much responsibility does that person get in the present versus what happened in the past? Well, before I can really say what boundary now needs to go in place with this person here in the present, I actually have to go do some work. And that in-between time of going and doing the work, in between reconciliation, there's almost like with specifically in grievance moments with people that we love in the present, when it's triggering the past, we can have kind of like a temporary reconciliation with this person. It can happen now, but y'all, we have to go back to the root of what happened in the past, because otherwise it's just going to keep coming up again and again and again. And we're going to continue to break further and further and further. And y'all, it is like the slow drip of a faucet. It's like the, death by 1,000 cuts. If you're cutting in the same place every time, and I'm not being responsible to go do my inner work, yet I'm trying to reconcile with this person, it is only ever going to be a temporary reconciliation because I'm not getting at the root. Therefore, the root of our issue will never be fully addressed. And so it is actually unloving to the person that I just had a grievance with to not do my work, to not go to the root, to not examine why did I get so upset? Why did I get so wounded? Why did I get so angry? If we're not willing to ask those questions, we're really not being faithful to the people that we love. We're also not being faithful to ourselves. That's another way that we can betray ourselves. We forget that identity piece, identity A, when we're holding on to grievances. Who does God say that I am? But we also negate and abandon identity B, our past experiences that are very real to us, like the human part of us. If we're ignoring and betraying that and simply trying to go and reconcile without making sure that we're actually good, now we're betraying identity B. Either way, we need to honor, who does God say that I am? Who is God? Let me go and make sure I'm embodying that. But then let me also tend to the part of me that is very human and very angry. I've got to make sure that I'm actually doing the work to get that out of me. Just want to say good morning and hop here in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining. Good morning, Rain Man. Aliha. Anthony, good morning. Howard, Goons, Bill, Bilb. Good morning. Rainman says, I have a lot of hatred in my heart. People make me mad and very easily these days. I hear you. Honestly, I got so upset yesterday, 2 days ago, that it actually made me be like, "Oh my gosh, like, I need to take some I need to really pay attention." You know, it really when we get so angry, it's a big mirror for us. It really, really is, and it's uncomfortable, and it's hard because so often we wanna blame and point the finger, but if we're going to be radical responsibility is looking inward. Man, sorry, I'm freezing. Radical responsibility is looking inward and taking care of what's going on inside of us rather than just sharing what we know about the other person and what they need to change. The radicalness of this kind of responsibility that we're talking about is really going in and doing the work and not allowing for things to slip for us, because we surely wouldn't let other people slip, right, if they've done something wrong. So I don't know why I'm so janky. I can tell that I'm like skipping. Oh well. Um, I'm just looking here in the chat. NKL, thank you so much for sharing. I don't want the divorce, but I'm not sitting around alone and staying married, not living together. I'm going to scroll up so I can have more context. Oh, that's hard. Ryan Cox, hello. Happy Wednesday. Happy, what is today? Monday. Oh my gosh. Jose. Oh, thank you. God is love. Brian, good morning. I'm so glad to see you. Cupcake. Have met says you're worthy through Christ. I love that. Man is films. Freedom. And you know what? I actually really do. I'm going to say it's probably something heretical here. I really believe that because God made us in his image, we're worthy. And it's about stepping into that identity and believing the truth. You know, really actually taking action in relation to the freedom that God offers us. It's not like, I don't know. I think that there's so much of how I was raised that was effectively saying, like, you're worthless, you're a worm, you're unlovable, but thank God for Jesus. And I'm like, I think that we're actually kind of wrong there. I think Jesus came and really bridged a gap that was necessary to show us how to live, and, you know, amongst many, many other things. But I think that we've gotten it really wrong, that like we're disgusting, we're worms, and thank God. You know, I think that when he created us, he was really proud, and he thought we were beautiful. So that's the only thing I will say. And you know, it's like identity A. You know, if we had conditions on people being worthy, then we couldn't. I don't think God has conditions on us in terms of the universal unconditional love that we were talking about yesterday. Then it's like, okay, then there's layers and there's almost like access. Like when you're actually willing to live right, I think you get further access to God. Just like how we were talking here, Jesus had boundaries because he knew their hearts. He had boundaries. So you get different types of access to God. Yet at the end of the day, you are loved unconditionally. Yet you break access by your own choices and your own decisions. Just jokes. 2 channels are better than 1. I love it. We actually are going to stop going live on the Knowing podcast here at the end of the month. But for now, yes, we do have 2 podcasts. Cupcake, user, hello, Joseph. User, we don't talk like that, so just kind of a warning here. Usama, he says, how old are you? Should never ask a woman her age. Rainman, I've often thought about going on a trip across America like Jay and Silent Bob to find people that piss me off online. Oh gosh. Honestly, it's wild how much I was sitting and listening to a conversation the other night between two people. It was so negative the whole time. And man, I wish I had left, like I really wish I had left, or I'd spoken up and said something. Y'all, what we fill our minds with, what we think about, what we listen to, every single thing in our lives are an input. Every single thing. It's like, I like to think of it as an information processing system, like a computer. Every input that we allow in comes into our information processing system and then comes out of us in some way, shape, or form. And I felt like sitting and listening to that conversation, it felt like poison. It wasn't a ton. It wasn't like a big dose of poison, but it was a little bit, and each, again, with a slow drip. What's the slow drip in our relationships? What's the slow drip in our inputs? What are we listening to? What are we reading? What are we texting about? What are we consuming? A friend of mine, his algorithm is effectively trained to only show him things that piss him off. He's pretty pissed off about some things happening in the world. So every time he picks up his phone, he gets angry. And here's the thing, if you're not able to take action on the anger or do something about it, then you're really pissed off not for no reason, because it's unjust. And man, if I'm sitting at my desk at my job and I pick up my phone and all of a sudden I'm instantly activated, now I'm going to have a coworker come up to me and I'm going to be like, what? And they're going to be like, what happened to you? So there's wisdom. This is where it's like, man, allowing the love of God to come in, remind ourselves of who we are, letting go of the grievances that we would be holding. The goal is that we're able to enact this glorious mission. We talked about this yesterday. Each one of us has a call over our lives to do something freaking amazing. And if we're not taking the time to actually be tuned into, okay, God, who do you say I am? What is the truth? And what have you called me to do? We're never going to be able to fulfill on this incredible mission. And that mission could be the very thing that staves off a war. It could be the thing that ends hunger, ends cancer. It could be a whole bunch of different things. But if we're sitting and consuming, we're probably going to get pissed off, and we're probably going to not be able to function at the highest capacity as we would if we were listening or allowing for different inputs and taking action as a result. Just looking here in the chat, Eager, hello from Canada. Just looking through. Manus Films, hello. I think I already said hi to you, but good to see you. Robert Pevling, you are welcome to stay here, but we just don't talk like that. We don't be mean. All right, just scrolling down. Caleb Castro, thank you for joining. I'm Hellbound of Justice. Hello. Abhinav, Accordums. Adam, Arter, hello. You know what's interesting? Adam says, see how obnoxious religious people are. Y'all, I think that's actually, it's an interesting thing for you to say. And I think that it's a little window into, or I guess it's a reminder into the people that Jesus would not spend time with were the religious people. And that's like, okay, am I living out of relationship? Am I living out of relationship knowing God? Like, this show is the knowing show. It's not just about knowing ourselves. It's about knowing God and knowing others and knowing who we are and knowing what our mission is, knowing what we're called to. Knowing goes so much deeper than just you and me. Knowing God transforms everything, because then we get to see the world through his perspective. And now it's relationship, not religion. I'm with you. I don't particularly love religious people because it's not rooted in a real heart transformation where it's coming from the inside out. That's what we're trying to do here, is that every discussion is about internal transformation. Yes, we can try to beat something over our heads and try to learn something new, But we have to go in, examine, okay, what's the old program here? What's the old narrative? And y'all, we've got old religious narratives for so many of us. We were taught things about God that probably aren't true. And so we need to go back and examine, like, what are those things that we learned about God that need to be undone, unprogrammed, so I can allow for something new to come in, such as holding on to grievances. If we think that the only way to make sure that we get justice is by holding on tightly to the hatred we feel until justice is served, we're effectively cutting off access to ourselves, to God, and to the rest of the world until we complete that cycle. And that's a really, really dangerous place to be, because man, do we need love. Man, do we need it. And once we're filled with it, then we can actually give it. It does not mean we do not allow for boundaries and allow for justice to be served, but it's now we're motivated by love in protection for ourselves and our community, and even in honoring God. I'm going to bring justice to honor the ultimate one who cares about justice. Like, there's so many verses about God cares about the causes of the orphan and the widow. And, he really, really cares about those who are in a weaker state. So us carrying out and executing justice, but rooted in love, not rooted in anger or hatred or bitterness, because we cannot help but have our actions be colored and corroded by that which is in us if it is not pure to begin with. All right, just scrolling down. Stormtrooper, hello. Accordums. He said, people say random things. Accordum says she can't cook. I'll challenge you to come over for a nice meal, and I'll cook you something great. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. I did. Stormtrooper, hello. Nicole, hello. Thank you so much for joining. Old Skies, New Worlds. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna put you on timeout because that's inappropriate. But I'm glad you're here. Hang out with us. We just don't talk like that. Okay, NKLS. I didn't see any additional context, so I'm sorry if I totally missed it. But you said, I don't want the divorce, but I'm not sitting around alone and staying married, not living together. I'd love to hear additional context. Gosh, marriage is so hard. First off, we're not trained how to do relationships. Good grief. It really is so incredibly hard. And I just would love to hear a little bit more about that if you're up for it. All right. I am continuing to scroll through the chat, and let's see. Yes, it's about knowing us, knowing him, and him knowing us. I'm just scrolling down in the chat. Y'all, this whole conversation around grievances is probably one of the most important things we can talk about, because freedom is on the other side. We're now untethered to that person. We're untethered to the past. We're now free to enter into the present moment. I was talking about how I felt really upset over the last couple of days about a particular instance with somebody. And once I really sat with it, and I was like, wow, like, I'm really upset. I realized almost instantly, once I sat with it, that what I was really upset about was something that happened 5 years ago that I haven't actually really moved through. And here's the thing. This is the benefit. It's a strange word to use. This is the benefit of being in relationship with people. They trigger us so that we can heal the old things. Not so that, but that's what happens so often, is that we have the mirror held up for us and we're like, ooh, I didn't know I still needed to heal from that. And it doesn't mean that we get to use that as an excuse to mistreat people in our lives. Like, oh, well, I've got this thing that happened that was actually pretty traumatic for me 5 years ago, so that's my license to treat you however I want. No, actually, it means that I now need to do a full-on pause. I need to acknowledge that, that this goes way deeper for me, and I need help. Like, I either need to have a conversation with you about it. I need to go do the work myself. maybe both. Maybe also talk to a therapist, or even just share with people who I trust and are safe for me, because for so long as that remains unhealed, it's like a ticking time bomb, y'all. It is so not safe for people around us for us to be walking around with an open wound. Now, anything that they say can scrape that wound or hurt that wound. And then we're all sensitive. And they're like, my gosh, it's like walking on eggshells. That's what that phrase means, is that other people around us don't feel really safe to be able to be free themselves, because we haven't done the work to heal and thus be free from the past ourselves. So it is for the sake of freedom that we forgive. It is for the sake of freedom that we let go of these grievances. And it is also for the sake of freedom that we implement boundaries to keep us safe, to keep them safe. All of this at the end of the day needs to be rooted and grounded in love. And on the other side of love is freedom. Just looking back through the chat here. And then I think we're going to go ahead and hop off. Somebody asked what I was drinking. I'm drinking my water. Giuseppe, hello. Andrew, nice to see you. Viking Lloyd. Viking Lloyd says, whatever is taken for granted shall be taken away. Wow. Man, that's a word. Anwar, how are you? I'm glad. I'm good. Thank you for joining. All right. I am putting you on timeout, user. We just don't talk like that. So, ew. Oh, Quee. All right, just scrolling down. Zen, hello. Most people are not evil, only afraid. Irene, hello. Thanks for joining. And NKL says, it's cool. I'm just looking forward to trying again one day. How long have you been divorced, Christene? And how long have you until you dated again? I don't want to rush, but hate being lonely. I have been divorced officially 4 years. He left in 2021, the summer of 2021. So I guess 4.5 years ago he left. You know what? We talked about loneliness a little bit. I think that we'll actually make loneliness a theme this week. I'll go ahead and kind of look at my schedule for this week and make that for one of the shows tonight on the Knowing Show at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about unconditional love part 2. We did part 1 last night. But maybe Wednesday or Thursday we'll talk about loneliness, because loneliness is an epidemic right now. We've seen it. It started in COVID. Well, probably started before COVID, but we've just seen it run rampant since COVID, and we have not been able to figure it out. I will say, NKL, it took me about 2.5, 3 years before I got into a relationship. And I didn't really date. It was somebody that I knew. So I've never really dated. My husband was the first person ever that I dated and married. I would love to talk to you about this when we do the loneliness show, because I think that, and I found from my experience that loneliness being the motivation, it's going to improperly position that person in your life as meeting a need for you. Whereas if you're able to come into this relationship really having your own needs met, now you're actually able to give and receive from a place of, you're not looking at relationship from a place of lack. Now, this person coming into your life, it's like, man, look how much better my life got, not how much more complete my life got. Because then you're constantly going to be looking to this person to meet a need for you what if they've got a bad day? Well, it was better if I was alone, and because honestly, I think that's every single person's narrative. Whenever we have a problem, if we're in a relationship to prevent loneliness. Now, if we have an argument, which is going to happen, a lot of times that's going to spark the narrative of, well, let me compare. Was it better for me to be alone or better for me to be with you? What is meeting my needs better? Rather than coming from this place of, y'all, this is really important. Do I feel called to this person? Do I feel called to this relationship? Do I feel called to this dynamic and what we've got here? Because that that motivation being like, no, like this is actually what is right for me, and the way that I'm growing, the way that I'm changing, the way that they're holding up a mirror for me, all of that. I actually needed to be reminded a couple, probably 3 months ago, that no, one of the reasons why I'm in a relationship is to change and is to grow. And so when it gets hard, that is precisely when my KPI is being met. My KPI and my success of one of the reasons why I'm in a relationship to become better. So now it's like I can welcome arguments. But if the goal is, and not even just arguments, the goal isn't arguing, the goal is change. And the goal is I'm holding up a mirror for you and you're holding up a mirror for me. And now we get to hold hands and be on the same team and help each other heal and help each other get better and help each other make the impact on the world that we're made to make. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts in that regard. Djamel, hello. Mark, as long as we can see our faults and try to correct in line to his teachings. I love that. I think I already, no, okay. We are born free. Oh, all right, let me scroll down. Something man. Hello. Jeff Sailors, hello. Thanks for joining. All right, Dezen, I'm just going to put you on timeout because I think you're not here for the right reasons. But I'm glad for you to listen. Whoa. Okay, I'm just going to put you on timeout too because that's crazy. Good morning, man in the hat. Hello. Monotone runner. Should we bury our heads in the sand? No, I don't think so. Explorer, hello. I'm so glad you're here. Sarthak, hello. Thank you. Maybe I will. Who knows? Steve, never fear. Steve is here. Good morning, Steve. I'm glad you're here. Oh, I love this. Viking Lloyd says, if you want to know God, do the right thing, have a little right thing, sacrifice all in that hour, and have a little faith. I love that. All right, y'all. I need to jump off. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I'm going to be back on tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be continuing on with part 2 of our conversation last night about unconditional love. Honestly, even today's lesson, love, what is it? Love holds no grievances. Let me pull that up. Lesson 68. Lesson 68 says, love holds no grievances. That was right. So love is a theme right now, and we're going to go with it. So thank you all so much for joining. I'll see you tonight at 8:30 p.m. And let me make sure, do I have a guest tonight? Because that would change our theme. Sometimes my wonderful team will put together the shows for us when I have guests. I do not. Great. I do not have a guest. So we'll be doing part 2 tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. Thank you so much for joining. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Remember, love holds no grievances. We've got the opportunity to exist free, to really love well. And in loving, we get to experience what happens on the other side of that. And what happens on the other side of that is we know God. We know ourselves, and ultimately we're able to know each other and really allow for love to just permeate our lives. So with that, thank you all so much for joining. I will see you tonight on The Knowing Show, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Until then, have a great day.